friends, my face is back. Today we're going to cover we're going to be covering a brief history of prosopagnosia. This is important because I would have likely have been dismissed as having it if I had approached anyone for a diagnosis in high school, and I wanted to take a moment to explain why this would have been the case. Prosopagnosia was first documented in 1947, back before color was invented, and was the result of a blow to the head. After that first documented case, it had only been diagnosed a handful of times over the following 30 years, and it wasn't really considered all that common. About as rare as ninja eating popcorn, actually. These cases were useful for learning about the origin of the disorder. The simple fact that object recognition remained intact meant that a separate part of the brain had to be responsible for facial recognition, and by looking at the parts of the brain that were damaged and the effect it had on the individual, psychologists were able to begin mapping out the parts of the brain responsible for recognizing faces, and they cleverly named that the fusiform face area. Between the years of 1947 and 2005, prosopagnosia was widely acknowledged as a rare disorder that was most often acquired and only occasionally documented in individuals without any history of brain damage. Research into developmental prosopagnosia picked up in the 1990s, but the disorder wasn't acknowledged as common until more than a decade later. Even the term face blindness wasn't proposed for describing this disorder until 1996, and in 2005, a study was published in Germany which showed prosopagnosia as having been passed down through multiple generations of the same family. This meant that even if I had known growing up, no one would have accurately diagnosed me. In 2007, when I graduated, it was just starting to be recognized amongst psychologists as potentially more common than people thought. So what does this mean for my neurotypical viewers? This information is relatively new and certainly not common knowledge at this point. This means it will seem to be popping out of the woodwork for the next several years, similar to autism and ADD. It's likely that someone you know, be it the quiet kid in class or one of your friends, actually has this disorder and doesn't know it, especially if their personality around people they know isn't consistent. Speaking of popping out of the woodwork, today's Good to Know is famous figures with prosopagnosia. This list includes actor Brad Pitt, the famous primatologist Jane Goodall, the physicist Paul Dirac, who is famous for his contribution in quantum mechanics and quantum electrodynamics, Victoria Crown Princess of Sweden, and Dr. Carl, ABC's science guru. And of course me! I'd like to give a shout out to my friend Beth, who drew the approximations for me, since I can't draw and I can't tell if they're actually the same people. They are the right people, right? So what do we know as of this moment? Developmental prosopagnosia seems to occur in one of two ways. It's either genetic, like we've covered, or if that's not the case, the part of your brain responsible for facial recognition may have spontaneously stopped developing at some point in your childhood. Now that we know all the types, someone with face blindness has a combination of two, either developmental or acquired, then apperceptive or associative. And now you know. Wasn't that information easy to find, redundant, and basically common knowledge? No? Well, it wasn't for me either, and I had both research and researchers on my side. In the meantime, I had to come up with a strategy to explain my seemingly strange and erratic behavior to everyone else. We'll be going over these strategies in self-diagnosis in episodes 4, 6, and 7, but not 5. If you want my personal experience in the matter, check out the Dory Story. Before ending this video, I'd like to take a moment to introduce a new segment, Proso Ratings. I'll be rating movies and TV shows depending on how easy it is to follow the plot based on the character similarities. I want to be clear, this is my opinion and not a cinematic quality review. For example, my director tells me that Seven Samurai is a masterpiece, but I know if I watch it, I might drive others insane asking who everyone is. So is that Samurai number 3 or Samurai number 8? Are you serious right now? What? Also, media taste, as well as the degree of an individual's face blindness, will definitely vary from person to person. So back on track. Today's movie is The Hunger Games, which on a scale of 10 being, I totally get this, and 1 being, what's going on? I give this one a 7. Despite having a lot of characters, not many of them are important to the plot, so for me, there's no difficulty following what's happening during most of the movie. However, Peeta and Kato look too much alike for me. For most of the movie, I can use the situation and my knowledge of the plot to tell them apart, but there were still moments where I just had to smile and nod. I do that a lot. At the end of the movie, when the two of them are fighting to the death, I have found it nearly impossible to tell who is who, which brought down my scoring. So, my question to the faceplant community: what rating would you give Hunger Games? For everyone else, are there any movies or TV shows you'd like me to rate? I'd love to hear your response. Alright, that's it. TTFN. Remember, you're all on us, me. SLC. Bye! Oh, there's 7 Samurai and 7 Samurai. What? I thought it was like a Pirates 9 Pieces of 8 thing. Wait, who just died?